Yo, what's up? We got a great show for you today. Yes, man. We're the Rugby Championships. They're never going to be the same again moving forward. We got Ilona Maher killing it on Dancing with the Stars. Also, this weekend, the WER Legacy Cup. We're going to talk about how that presented out, talk about who were the results from that one, and really what that means moving forward. Also, man, look, World Rugby is getting scared about 2031. Y'all, there's questions, but there might be some answers that go to it. We're going to discuss it. And lastly, y'all, look, there's things that you didn't even know that were happening in the Rugby World Cup 2023 that almost didn't happen, and that included Fiji playing in their quarterfinals. We're going to talk about all this and more on this new episode of Rugby Swag. Hit that intro, baby!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time.
Welcome to the Rugby Swag Show. Welcome to Rugby Swag. My name is GiftTime and Bailey. Of course, this is the show where we make sure stories are not lost in ignorance through news and interviews. We changed up the tagline, all right? I had to shorten it up. I figured it out. But before we even get started, and before you guys get on me and whether or not it's going to work as a tagline overall, I need you guys to please, if you can, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and then go ahead and leave a comment on the videos, y'all. We want to make sure that we are giving you guys the best so that you can be able to do the rest, all right? And your subscriptions, your comments, your views absolutely help to be able to make sure that I can continue to bring out the information that you guys are able to use and flex on your people and be able to use it to be able to know the intricacies of why rugby is moving the way that it does, not simply just going with the flow. All right, but y'all, I appreciate it. And of course, if you guys absolutely can, definitely tell your friends about the show. They can obviously see it here on YouTube as a visual element, but if they don't, we also have obviously the audio podcast. Definitely check us out on any major audio streaming platform. That is Spotify, that is Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Amazon Music, at iHeartRadio, and a slew of other major audio platforms alongside to make sure that it is there for when you want to be able to access it, not simply the best way for you to come to me. Oh, I do appreciate you coming my way. Can you come my way? Oh, and y'all, of course, man, that's not the only way you can connect with us. Please go ahead and if you can, send a like, a follow over to our Instagram at Rugby Swag Show. You can also find us at GiftTime Rugby as well. But of course, things get exclusive per account depending on what the situation is. And then if you guys don't use Instagram, no worries. You can find us on TikTok at GiftTime Rugby. Find us on Facebook at GiftTime Rugby and at the Rugby Swag Show. And that's need to update that. I would say you can find us on X, but as a current resident of the great country of Brazil, we currently do not have access to X. So until further notice, you can post on it. You can hit me on it. I ain't getting to you for however amount of time it takes for whatever this situation does to end in and of itself. But definitely I'm available on TikTok, of course, right here on YouTube. And occasionally whenever we do stream, we will be available on Twitch to talk live. So don't let your friends believe that there is no place that they can go to get the good information and analysis. Man, don't do it. You do it. You understand what's going on. And of course, the participation. You know, there's very few places that you're going to have where you get to have the conversation one-on-one. And it's just good convo. It's just good convo. Comment in the comments, you know, get the interactions. Hey, this is how we do it. And the people are interacting. The community is great. Like this is a dope situation overall. It's a dope situation altogether. So I'm really happy to be able to do this and bring it through. If you guys hadn't noticed, even beforehand, we started doing the interviews again. Had the interview with Nyasha Museta and Kumbi Sibanda about their A-Stat gaming, about daily fantasy gaming for rugby. Something a little changed from like a Super Brew or whatever the other bootleg fantasy apps are going. You guys actually can go check those out. But like, oh man, it's been so good to talk to people. I had just a great conversation with and this exclusive for you guys, South Africa women's star Nadine Roos, which was an awesome conversation in and of itself. I can't wait to be able to post it up. But we got another one that's coming up even sooner with Australian women's head coach, the Wallaroos head coach, Joe Yap, who is the former also captain for England Rugby. The depth of information that we took that put some context into some of the actions happening in rugby right now that have happened in recent years, not maybe right now, but in recent years. Like, it's so good. The only thing that always gets rough is trying to go set up the interviews because it's a time process. You got to reach out, you got to follow up, you got to make sure everything's good. And, sometimes all hands on deck. In a team of one can be very, very arduous, but hey, it's all good, man. I enjoy the process. I enjoy doing what I do, but most importantly, I really do like that you guys are able to get these good conversations, and I enjoy having these great conversations as well. Like I can't even hate on that. I can't even lie about that, man. But this week, we're back into news again. I think last week I missed out because I think the news was very light last week. It was very, very light, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little exhausted from doing the interview, trying to post a little bit more on social media, kind of doing it between multiple places. So it can be its own tasking process and can be a drain. But this is a muscle that's being built and consumed and worked on. So the more that it's done, the more it's easier to get it done, and that's where we're kind of at right now. So I don't want to hold off any longer. Let's get straight into our next topic. But before we do, of course, we got to take care of those who take care of us. We're going to be right back after these commercials. We will be talking about the Women's Elite Rugby Legacy Cup, the inaugural Legacy Cup, and what that means. Stay tuned for it. We'll be right back. I'm going to let you get back to the show in a moment, but I want to talk to you about our sponsors, Health Enhanced Foods, the best specialty flours in the business. What does that mean for you? That is the flours that allow you to be able to get the nutritious need from your bread made. That's muffins, bread, croissants, whatever, pancakes and muffins. It will give you the opportunity to be able to get the best while still being able to eat like you wanted to. We have various amounts of products available for those who have special dietary needs to those who are looking for a special health outcome. And of course, because they're part of the Rugby Swag Show, we want to let you know that you got a chance to go to healthenhancedfoods.com and use code Rugby Swag to be able to get 20% off your first order. Y'all, this is something that you're going to need. You got to build up, have your energy at the best, be the maximum. It's 2024. Let's do the best. But now, I want you guys to get into it. Let's get back to the show. Yo, welcome back. So, man, the Women's Elite Rugby Legacy Cup happened this past weekend. It was the finals, which is now, if you guys don't realize, the Legacy Cup is now considered the championship game for the Women's Premier League. That is the club rugby D1 league here in the U.S. in Brazil, here in the U.S. But it has now been kind of garnered into the Women's Elite Rugby, which is the professional rugby league that is for women that is starting in the U.S. in 2025. They've essentially gathered this into a championship game and provided a really great coverage of the whole situation, to be perfectly frank with you. And this year it featured a return back of previous Women's Premier League championship winners, Colorado Grey Wolves versus the I believe San Diego All Blues. And I mean, it was a great game. It was a really, really solid game. Like, what you expect, two teams that have very talented players. The Women's Elite, the Women's Premier League has been really okay. the Women's Premier League has been really working hard to make sure that they can, provide the best competition for women, across the country, and it's been great. It's been great. The unfortunate part is because it's pay for play, because it is a club championship. It's never going to have the full gravitas that it is. But I think this is a part of the reason why the Women's Elite Rugby was able to go ahead and take advantage of this moment to be able to see how they can rise multiple boats under this ocean that they're trying to create. Over this ocean they're trying to create. So what we got here, what I really wanted to talk about from this, because I couldn't really speak to the details because I don't watch the Women's Premier League on a regular basis. It's club rugby. Like, it's just difficult to do it. I know they have games everywhere, but the same issues that I always have about MLR or rugby in general is the same one I'm going to have with clubs. Like, it's difficult to create storylines around people you're not sure of, and as a result, like, also being able to have the ability to keep it consistent. Now, there's people like Jackie Finlan of the Rugby Breakdown that do it fantastically. That is, like, she's, Wendy Young of Your Scrum Half Connections, fantastic at this. So I'm not going to pretend to be able to know more than I do, but I do want to talk about the presentation of this, because I think it was something that I felt was very promising to the rugby community in this one. So, thankfully, shout out to Women's Elite Rugby and Catherine Aversano and Sam Pell, who put me on the media list, allow us to be able to get a recording of the game. And I felt like this was something that I'm glad for what the future is, because it takes a little bit of the lessons that have not been always learned well in other instances and are brought better right now for this. So for the production for this, that was apparently done by L2 Productions, and in conjunction, I think, with Next Level Rugby, which is with our friend of the show, Ryan Ginty's production company. He's been doing a lot of the MLR games that you watch. He's been doing USA Rugby games. He has been now doing the Women's Elite Rugby, and slowly has been really entrenched within the production of rugby content for multiple distributors, from ESPN to Fox, etc., like that. So the production for this, I thought, was what was needed. All right. Not only did you have a situation where you had a great calling crew that was made up of veteran broadcasters, in essence, that have been a part of rugby. So it was led by, again, friend of the show, Wendy Young with Your Scrum Half Connection as play-by-play. It had the legend Phaedra Knight as a commentator, and then it had Brianna Kim, who is a former player, long-time broadcaster, done MLR, done USA Rugby, International, and is working hard with the Women's Elite Rugby. In addition, they brought in Darian Lovelace as a sideline crew, who's, again, worked with Next Level Rugby. If you guys looked at their Instagram page and whatnot, it is the regular guys, Lance Kavanaugh of Great American Rugby, Darian Lovelace, who's a former Life University star, now has become a broadcaster underneath the company, and then bringing in Wendy and a lot to be able to be a part of this game. And what I always want to see from a presentation is energy. It's energy. Can you present the information that ultimately I might not know anything about, but can you present it in a way that I can feel the increased passion? So let's kind of get it in a little bit. I want to just show a little bit of what they had so far, just to kick it off. One of the things that I really liked about what Women's Elite Rugby is doing with the Legacy Cup, more so than just what the production is and what's really the big deal that comes out from this, is the fact that they are utilizing the Women's Premier League as a feeder into the Women's Elite Rugby, which, again, seems very obvious. but the level of investment that you have to do to be able to do that, not only from an IP standpoint, but from a scouting standpoint, is really quite interesting, because you have a situation where with this women's elite rugby, you're of course have the population of the US rugby playing population to be able to pull from, right? Which isn't very high. But you also have the difficulty of trying to be able to scout, the number of teams that are existing in the Women's Premier League, and trying to find the best players that are coming out of that to be able to add into your currently 16 league that is trying to upstart and have the biggest burst. You're going to have difficulties pooling players from overseas, because you also have your competition from the Women's Premiership Rugby in England and the UK, and then you also have the Women's Super League in the South Pacific area. Basically, the two voids that you're going to be getting the majority of your international talent from. Of course, not to say that they probably still can get it from like African countries such as Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, and that they couldn't still pull from Asia, where you get like Japan and Korea, China, possibly. But the crux of your playing population is going to come from the US. So you need to have a way to not impact negatively the D1 performances that you need to be able to feed into your league, which I feel like MLR disrupted the impact of D1. Like I feel like it doesn't have the same feel like it did prior to. But you also need to make sure that you're also providing an elevation capability where you can see the best players that you will typically come play in the semifinals, et cetera, like that. And basically have a way for your promotion to be able to pay for itself and be able to develop the stories. And of course, let's not talk about the video IP that they're getting, that they can now create these packages for the players for whenever they bring them onto the team, and now you have a flow. So I love the fact that they're doing this. This adds so much depth into it, and we're gonna have to bring on one of them, maybe Catherine again, going from HBCU to professional, to be able to talk about what they got going on with this. But needless to say, much congrats to them on this.
Welcome to Greensboro, North Carolina at the scenic McPherson Stadium in Bryant Park for the inaugural Legacy Cup Championship. Known as Tournament Town, Greensboro is ready for a thrilling rematch of last year's final. The four-time and reigning champions, Colorado Grey Wolves, will take on the three-time title holders, All Blues. Both teams have traveled across. Lynn, who was a menace on the weekend at that scrum half position, sliding around the defense for a try for the All Blues. We'll take. It's wonderful to get that insight from the captains, and really,
they're going to play very different types of rugby, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and it's a clash
that they're.
So okay, so this is where I want to get at.
Take me through a little bit of the season and how we got
great professional look.
It's been the longest season that the WPL has had to date, Wendy, and it's been long for both of these teams. However, you look at these two teams, Colorado and the All Blues, and we know that the history doesn't just go from this year, right? It's been years in the making, and we know that they're going to play very different types of rugby, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and it's a clash of two different styles, right? You got one team that plays with a bit of chaos and another team that plays with a ton of structure and technique under the reign of Jamie Burke. But the semifinals showed that, obviously, last week with Colorado just really pressuring New York defensively, turning the ball over and just stifling them.
It's been just a wonderful run up to all of this, and so we are going to have a whole show for you. We're going to take a look at key players and lots of the action. We're going to go down to the sideline to Darian Lovelace, who is on the sideline for us as well, and she spoke with the captains.
Down here pitchside with me is Colorado Grey Wolf captain Rachel Ericke.
All right, so before we continue getting on, so it's like this. All right, So a lot of people be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it was a big deal. They're just talking, and you're doing what you see from any other broadcast." And I think that's a big deal. All right, because not only are you creating the story, because you have to create the stories from this, right? You need to be able to set up the template, and this is not something that's always consistently done. You got to set up what this all means. You've got to set up why this is significant. You got to set up who do we have to care about. We got to set it up because you do not have this typically happen. You don't have an audience for it. There's no assumptive audience that goes with it. And as well, you also have a smooth transition going from each commentator, each analyst, to make sure that they are in sync with each other, right? Even down to coming down to Darian talking with the captains. Now, the part that I actually really enjoyed the most was actually during the halftime, which was really a great whole thing. It was a great production, and this was the part that got me the most interested with it. Let's get it. Let's get it over here. Okay, so smooth transition. All right, let's go into it.
Grey Wolves. We're going to go down to the sideline with Darian Lovelace.
Down here right now with Jamie Burke, head coach for the Colorado Grey Wolves. And now you're up, but not by a lot. It's been a hard-fought first half. What's it going to take to get you through the second?
I think really taking advantage of the depth of our bench so that we can keep the pace high. When we're able to play our game plan, we're able to put points on the board. We know how dangerous Berkeley can be, so we just got to keep playing to our strengths and playing at the pace we want.
And don't forget, Jamie Burke right now is also supposed to be now the director of rugby for Women's Elite Rugby as well, too. So this is the great double promotion that you guys have happening here.
Play at.
And with the All Blues, does anything change about your game plan, or do you just stick to what you've been talking about leading up to this matchup?
We definitely address a few of the things that we know are their traits and characteristics, and worked on that in prep for the match. And we've really, I think, shown it out here. So now we just got to keep it up for another 40 minutes.
You and I both know that Jamie's got something plotting in the back. Jamie, good luck to you in the second half. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Back up top to you, Wendy.
Thanks, Darian. And we can see Jamie wearing that championship shirt from last year. We talked a bit about it with the semifinals, that Jamie will get great woof shirts from her wife, Monica, and then if they lose, she never wears it again. She burns it essentially. But what do we think there from what we heard from Jamie Burke and the chat there from her?
She's right on, right? Like they got depth. They played this entire season just moving people in and out of the rotation so that for this moment, right? So that they could play from, one to the bench, right? And so what it gives them is it gives them that extra fuel power, right? And the consistency across the board is really what they're looking to do. Just continue to build throughout the 80 minutes.
And we're going to go down to the sideline again. We're going to be with Darian and Lauren Rhodes.
I've got Lauren Rode down here. You're the assistant coach for the All.
Okay, so it's basically this. There's one thing that's consistently happens, especially in rugby, that I find, and again, this is mine. You guys let me know what you guys feel. But I found that whenever there isn't advertising in the middle, there's nothing happening. It's either wide shot of the field, wide shot of the crowd, but really it's just wasted space. So to have this where you already know that they don't have the sponsorships, they don't have the advertising for it right now. Like they're building this. This is a product that they're building right now, but they're utilizing this space to be able to keep you informed and keep you having a reason to stay paying attention, keep you having a reason to keep going. And that is tough to do, especially for the commentators, because you're basically going through almost 3 hours straight of this conversation. But I think it's really important to see that whenever you're building something from the ground up, and we're going to talk about this with World Rugby later, that you want to make sure that you have a format to make sure people's attention never wanes. It cannot wane. We do not have the affordability for it to be able to wane. Now, there's going to be people who are like from South Africa and England or New Zealand that are not used to having this situation. Well, unfortunately, that makes up literally like a fraction of a percentage of the greater rugby playing community globally, right? So the majority of people who watch rugby do not have a very well set up formal production of how to be able to watch rugby. And so I do give them commendations for them to be putting together at least a structure that they can use and be able to package and hopefully sell to a distributor that can be able to do it. Obviously, they played this on Rugby Pass, which I think is significant. Like it's good to be able to partner with World Rugby on their platform. They need content. It's content that can distribute out wide to that base on that platform. And it doesn't have the insular, like the lack of credibility, like solely putting it on YouTube. Ironically, having a platform does make a difference for people's perceptions of the game. It might not be the greatest platform. Obviously, they did the Rugby Network, I think, before that for the semifinal games, and Rugby Pass, who've notoriously had partnership the two together until they separated last year. But it's good to be able to do that. Again, it's thinking ahead and at least trying to be able to plan for how you sell this package out to distributors. Because if you can't sell the package out to distributors, well, you fall into where the MLR is right now, where you have possibly some stuff happening that is none too great, to say the least. None too great, to say the least. So, let me know what you guys think. If you guys got a chance to watch the championships, how you felt with the game playing. Shout out again to Colorado Grey Wolves for getting another win under their belt, going, I guess, 5 straight now wins. It's at this point doesn't even feel like it's competitive, even though the game was competitive. But it's good. It's good to see. But like I said, I really wanted to just talk about the production and what it was, and then from the gameplay, it was. I think the gameplay component was pretty basic. I'm not gonna pretend like I think the camera work. They obviously use different cameras, and it felt like pretty much a club rugby game. I won't say it was a professional level on that one, but I did like what they have for everything around it. I will give them for that. It was for everything around it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know how you guys are feeling. I want to get your feelings on all of this when the opportunity arises. And let's see how we can go from there. All right, y'all, we're gonna be right back after these set of messages. We are going to be talking about what is happening with Fiji Rugby and how a lot of corruption, or less so corruption, a lot of not taking care of business could have really made a negative impact on this Rugby World Cup in 2023. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
Buckwheat is changing lives. My name is GiftTime. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite products on our shelves, buckwheat baking mix. Buckwheat is a seed that is incredibly nutrient and protein dense. But what makes it even more important, that buckwheat baking mix is absolutely gluten-free. A lot of times whenever people have buckwheat mixes, they actually even hold wheat inside of it. So you know it's not fully gluten. And if you're a person that is celiac or diabetic, or you're just really trying to be health conscious, it's not something that you want to have to worry about. What makes our buckwheat baking mix even more important is that it is versatile. You can use it for pancakes, you can use it for waffles, you can use it for making loaves of bread, you can make it for cupcakes. But what helps even more is that it is allergen free, it is nut free, it is dairy free, that there is no additional additives in it. There's no leavening there, so that if you want to be able to raise your bread, you can put in the baking powder yourself and get it fluffy. If you don't, you absolutely do not have to. You get the bread that you love without the cost to your health. You can absolutely find buckwheat baking mix at healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely check it out. Get your nostalgia back. Get back to eating and loving the way that you are, and absolutely get back to the energy that you know that you can get without having to destroy yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing you get it. Let's go.
Welcome back, y'all. Man, we got a great one. Man, this is actually a really sad story, to be perfectly honest with you. It speaks about what's been going on in Fiji, and really the development. Now, if you guys don't know, obviously Fiji Rugby is probably one of the most well-known rugbies amongst the greats of the New Zealands, Australias, uh, um, you know, South Africa's traditional powerhouses. That more so because of how good they play. Definitely in sevens, we've seen how dominant the Fijians have been, and to the extent what they've been able to do as of recently, as they've received a lot of investments from World Rugby. They were able to create their Super League professional team so that Fijian players could continue to play from home with the Fijian Drua. You've seen the development in how that impacted their national team from the 15 side. Obviously, what we've seen from sevens, which just naturally, they coming in silver in the Olympics after double back-to-back golds in the Olympics. The 4 medals that Fiji has ever had from the Olympics all are straight rugby. But there was a conversation that happened this week with Fijian captain Wazale Wazia Naya Klevu, where he said that the quarterfinal match against England in the 2023 Rugby World Cup almost did not happen because of the fact that there was so many issues with non-payments and corruption, as they called, within the Fijian Rugby Union. Now, that one hits hard because not necessarily because I have a personal interest in it, but because of the fact that when you put Fiji and rugby, they almost feel innocuous. They almost feel like one and the same. Like Fijians are rugby. And even though it's a small island, and obviously the population isn't exactly the richest population in the world, you would have thought that the sport that probably brings them the most notoriety, maybe secondly to tourism in and of itself, would be something that was protected a lot. And also, if you've met a lot of Fijians, they are like amongst the kindest people in the world. Absolute beasts on the field, don't get me wrong, but amongst the kindest people in the world. So whenever you're sitting here and you're reading that, man, Fijians were about to boycott continuing on the Rugby World Cup in the quarterfinals, which was, for whatever it's worth, one of the biggest games that they could have played, especially considering that they beat England in that quarterfinal. Like that was something that I believe is truly game changing, and it's for the fact that they are not getting taken care of. And to be honest with you, again, this isn't the most surprising thing that there's been financial issues with Fiji. I mean, again, we talk about the fact that they have been invested in by World Rugby and partners to be able to help develop that union, because so much talent has been basically pillaged from that island. And around the world, Fijians are basically leading the charge in the development and the physical talent that goes with rugby. And to be able to do it at home is important for them. Like, Fijians should be able to represent their own countries at home if they choose to. But we've seen it with issues that we talked about in the past, where the women's team didn't have lodging once they came off from tournament play for the HSBC. I think this was in Singapore, and they had to sleep outside the airport for some time being. And we've talked about it with non-payment as well. And for it to come to this head also speaks a lot of volumes. This article that I picked up from Planet Rugby also speaks to the fact that that the corruption that the captain Wise talks about would be able to do this. So his claim is that essentially he writes out here, and you know, I'll put it up because, you know, I always like to at least give credit where credit is due. He says that if we didn't have corruption, if professional people in charge, then Fiji would be better. If not fair, it's not fair, but you have to go in there and fix it. Naya Klavu, why is said that where is it that they put it? So okay, this is where he said it. It says here, the veteran midfielder added that the fights with the Fijian Rugby Union proved to be a distraction for the squad as they chased history by taking their nation to the semifinals of the tournament. It was in reference. It's Wyzia says it's not the first time boys getting half paid. Boys not getting paid for weeks. We were paid on the Thursday before the England match. It was close. It distracted our focus. Fiji distracted focus is what you guys did to England to get that win, man. Maybe they need to be more distraction, but I guess that impacted whenever they played France. Following up from that, basically, you know, just getting payments out, but man, it's tough. Again, we speak on this. Rugby is going through one of the worst transitions I think it has, and it's probably 150 years where it has not been run in good business format. It has been run so poorly in business format that it is embarrassing how much they've been dropping the ball. And to even now see this with Fiji again, not as surprising because Fiji has an issue with being revenue generating. Again, a financially strapped population with low population numbers and not having access to a major revenue source. Obviously, Fiji Airway is the primary sponsor for the Fijian Rugby Union, the Fijian rugby teams, but that's one airline, and that can't hold. Like, if you've seen how airlines are now, like that, even that is barely holding on thin profit margins, let alone to be able to take care of the guys. And then obviously trying to utilize the New Zealand and the Australian market where there's actually some population, but even those guys are going through their own issues. Like, it adds another factor to this. So I guess it's needless to say, it makes me sad. I brought this story up because I felt like it was really sad to see that Fiji as well is getting caught up in the blast. But you know, I feel for both the players, and I probably feel for the administration, because I'm sure that not all the money is being laundered out to something else. You know, I'm confident that, you know, there are officials that actually want their team to do well and to be able to represent well and to be able to get wins like they did at the Rugby World Cup, and to be able to show out like they've been doing at the Pacific Nations Cup, and be considered a top 10 team where they are currently rated right now. But they need to be able to financially maintain themselves. And it's difficult when you have a horrendous business model. And this isn't going to be the first time this is going to be happening. And our next story is going to be talking about this even more. We're going to be right back with it because this one just hit the airwaves, even though I think I've heard about this for the last couple of weeks now. But this one just hit the airwaves, and just hits hard, man. MLR, man, we got to do better. Going to be right back after these messages.
There's wheat flour that you can eat. My name is GiftTime at Baylor. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods. And I want to tell you about one of our best and most beloved products, our sweet white wheat baking mix. Now, this is the baking mix for those who are not really looking for something that's gluten-free, but they are looking for something that they can eat that is going to still be healthy and is not going to be dangerous. White flour is typically a very processed, incredibly bleached flour, and it's not good for you. It's incredibly cheap for a reason. Our sweet white wheat bread mix is whole grain, dairy-free, high in dietary fiber, free of additives, and is absolutely unprocessed and unrefined. With our sweet white wheat bread mix, you can feel like you're getting all the same rewards that you would get from poor white bread, but with all the nutritional value. You're able to still make your bread loaves or your cakes, your flat bread or your cookies, but you don't have to feel like you are going to be robbing yourself of good carbohydrates. You can get the sweet white wheat bread mix from healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely go impress your friends and family with the greatest bread while not making them feel like they have to be gluten-free at the same time. No dangers, full body pleasures. Go ahead and get yours today. Let's go.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Look, this is one where I really adds to this Fiji story of the money, and it's now just starting to become wearing at this point. It's absolutely becoming wearing at this point. It was just announced today, and obviously today is Thursday that I'm recording this. When you hear it, Thursday or Friday or Saturday, whenever you hear it, it looks like there is another Major League Rugby team that is not going to be able to continue due to financial issues. It was announced that the Dallas Jackals, who a team that was just in the playoffs the year before, beat the number one team in the league, the Houston SaberCats, to ultimately lose to Seattle in the playoffs, are no longer able to continue after I think it's only been like 3 years that the team has been in play. They were unable to. Major League Rugby put out this statement saying that the Dallas Jackals have informed the league that they will not participate in the 2025 competition. They are continuing to evaluate a controlling interest transfer, which will not be complete in time for them to plan for and compete in the 2025 Major League Rugby in 2025. Major League Rugby will continue to work with Dallas leadership on a transition plans in the days and weeks ahead. Our focus is on the team, its players, and planning for another successful MLR season in 2025. An announcement about the player dispersal process will be shared soon. So once again, another set of players are now lost into the wind because they could not keep a team. So what allowed the creation of RFC LA and the Carolina Anthem is now what also will cost us the New York Ironworkers, the Austin Gilgronis, the Toronto I forgot Toronto's name. The former LA Giltinis, Atlanta, Atlanta, Rugby Atlanta. It's literally been every single year. I think a great context to this, as much as the teams and the owners are gung-ho, and I really have been trying to buy in more and more that they really, not that they didn't care, I think they obviously cared about the rugby of it all, but the business model of it and the presentation of it, I feel like I thought they would care this year because they had to prove that they can make this work. But the financial issues that come with this league are so high. A great episode to watch is on our guy, Matt McCarthy, who I do the show Rugby Odds with on his platform on the Rugby Wrap Up. He did an episode on his show, MLR Weekly, where he talked with the owner, one of the co-owners of the Houston SaberCats. And what the guy had to say was really, was something I think needs to be looked at. And basically why the league is just not able to grow or be consistent or even, maintain a factor of better than just barely making it. This is Matt McCarthy talking with Marty Power, co-owner of the Houston SaberCats, about the the goals that MLR has been having but unable to fulfill?
Very. And, even today we're very worried, right? Because inflation, costs have skyrocketed, and, it's tough and I'm going to call rugby in America as a marginal sport at this point, right?
Sure.
I mean, a lot of our original owners had, grand visions of, we're going to be like MLS, right? MLS got their TV contract in their 7th year. Well, we just finished our 7th year. We haven't got a TV contract yet, right? Soccer in the U.S. has millions of kids playing, tens of millions of kids playing soccer, and rugby probably has 1 million. So we're,
Doesn't even
I
have
was
1 million.
never visions of grandeur. I always said if our franchises can be similar to a successful minor league baseball franchise to start with, I said, I think that would be a success. And I still believe that until, maybe by 2031, when the World Cup's here, maybe, as if rugby grows in the U.S. over the next 5 to 10 years, like World Rugby wants it to, and we want it to, then maybe we get closer to MLS.
Well, you committed to the runway. They talk about that
Yes.
runway of.
So yeah, like that's what I'm talking about. Like they have not achieved the objectives that you needed to be able to be a financially viable league. He went on to talk about like the amount of crowd that they needed to have on average per team per game, which is somewhere like 7,000 in ticket sales per game per team, which is not happening. It's somewhere probably closer to like 4,000, 5,000, somewhere like that. The need for obviously a TV deal to be able to pay for make a revenue, which the MLR pays for its production. I think the guy he said it. Production costs somewhere around like $2 million per year. The league is losing almost $5 million per year to get in. The concepts are really shrinking. We've talked about this in the past multiple times over, but the things that you need to make a move that make professional sports move: TV contract, ticket sales, sponsorships. And while they're getting some minor sponsorships, they're not getting a lot of money back in those sponsorships as well too, because they don't have the population, they're not doing the platforming, they're not getting the contract, they're not doing anything, and hence you get a situation where the Dallas Jackals, that are a money draining franchise, as all MLR teams are, have a difficulty of being able to find somebody to buy into it where they can say, hey, the potential for this is really legit. Like Marty tried to say, he thinks that there's maybe 1 million people who play rugby in the U.S. There's not 1 million people that play rugby. We saw that whenever Scott Lawrence was talking about the post on his page. There's not even 100,000 people who are playing rugby in total, let alone on the youth side. It was just talked about that maybe in the youth had 70,000 that were playing overall. It's not good. That's very, very far off. So, you get continued this restriction that continues to happen because of the fact that the core tenements are not being met. So instead of just complaining, okay, right, what is the solution? Well, this is why I've always talked about, like, number one, how do you present the game? We talked about the draft a couple weeks ago, and how said it was good that they did it as a pre-recording, but for whatever it's worth, it was a very lackluster presentation because it didn't feel like they put their all into it. And you go like, well, it's just a draft. What does it matter? Well, it creates a story. It creates the excitement. It allows people to start coming to the table. It creates virality moments. It creates means of being able to market without having to force the market to kind of take you in. But they weren't doing that. They haven't been doing that. It goes to what they've been doing on trying to make the championship game even bigger. And obviously, like, they brought in DJ Marshmallow on this last championship, and then they did Shaquille O'Neal on the one prior to, but they did it for the crowd and not for the television spot. They were on Fox, but you're not presenting a show. You are presenting a game. These all affect how people go in to engage a game, and more importantly, how you bring more youth into the game, how you be able to bring in the grassroots lift where you're able to elevate that up. And shout out to my guy Michael Mick Mullins, Michael Feely, because he's always expressed this, that you should be creating product to sell to your constituents and use the revenue generation not just to be able to elevate your brand, but to be able to show that you have an audience that is available to you from these other sponsors, from these other TV deals, and that you utilize your own system to be able to do it. It's more expensive on the upfront, but it clearly works better for you on the back end. 7 years into the MLR, the game on the field has improved. Undeniably has improved, but the business and the production around it has not. And when it all comes down to it, those are the parts that keep your business model up and going, and you don't continue to lose another franchise for another year with the hopes of being able to bring something else. Like World Rugby invested in the anthem for 4 years. Why? So that they could be able to see a production development. Did we think that was a good idea? Some people did. I myself, not the biggest fan of it. I thought that money could probably have gone to grassroots rugby or developing something that is more merchandisable, a more physical product that could be sold. But you're not even selling content at this point. Like, what is it that you're selling outside of just this game? You're not selling a story. You're not selling an experience. You're not selling a product. You're not selling anything to the constituents that feel like it's a necessity. Everything is a luxury. And when things are a luxury, when times are hard, and as Marty said, inflation is up, cost of things are going up, buying power is lower. You don't want to spend on things that you don't care about. And hence, these teams start to lose it. And you lose a market like Dallas, you lost New York, you lost LA for a time period, you're out of Austin, you're now out of Atlanta. 2 of these 3 financial centers, now Dallas, Atlanta, New York, and Dallas are 3 financial epicenters of the United States. Chicago is another one, which thankfully they just put the team in there. LA is another broadcasting market. Everybody knows what goes on with that. And obviously they stuck a team there. But again, what are you doing to develop from the community? You can have the academy, but what does the academy produce? What is the advantage for the academy? Can check out the past episode, but again, I look at Argentina that's been developing where they have academy positions, and then they build around those the communities in the region for their rugby, and that becomes a central polling place, and that becomes the area where they produce and develop their product, their business modeling, their players, their clubs, all that good stuff. So it's oh man, this is just sad news for me. This is sad because I know this Dallas team might have entered in the MLR 3 years ago, but shout out to my guy Phil Camp, who is one of the investors and founders for Women's Elite Rugby. He founded that Dallas team that they basically used that setup almost a decade ago. He was one of the first to bring professional team onto U.S. soil in that sense. But again, the lack of support, the lack of a plan, a viable plan, a possibility to get it to the next level, it's not there. It's just not there. And you're going to continue to see this. You're going to continue to see it in these markets. Now, I think Houston might be a safe place, but watch for New Orleans. Watch for San Diego. San Diego's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I think they got a lot of poly and Australian and a lot of South Pacific support that resides out there. And so that might be holding them, but how long? What's the cost? How does it work? California is one of the most expensive states. Like, can they maintain that? LARFC, I think they're good at least for the next 2-3 years or so. But even Miami, I think, should be good for the next 2-3 years. They got solid backing. I think the Mercado Libre guys should continue to be able to do that. Plus, I think they're using it again as a dumping spot for their Argentina teams. And with the news that's going on with the Rugby Championships, I think the investment up there is going to be even that much higher. And what happened with Toronto Blues? Was it the Blues? The Toronto Blues. No, it's not the Toronto Blues. The Arrows, I'm sorry. With what happened with the Toronto Arrows, obviously Arrows are defunct now and their players spread out, but it creates a whole new set of issues. And the other part is maybe the league does need to constrict. It's not really ready for growth, and it needs to have the highest concentration of good players to maximize the highest level of personality building, to allow the greatest amount of story experience and a product to contently sell. Because they're just not selling their content, man. Not selling content well, not selling physical product, not just jerseys, like literally a product that people need. Like every region should, and again, I'm taking this from Mike Feely, man. He's the one that basically taught this. But like a team like, let's say, New Orleans should be producing their own shoe, producing custom rugby gear, producing MLR or New Orleans Gold, not branded, created rugby gear, and selling that to their constituents. Not so much selling it to all Louisiana, all Mississippi, all Arkansas, all East Texas, selling to Georgia, selling to Tennessee. Like they should have this that region in set where they're distributing. Hey, you need rugby gear, you need packaging, whatever it is. Yo, buy from us, purchase from us, and we will supply you with the same gear that we're using. Not branded by Rhino with an MLR logo on it, directly from them. And that would create a different set of basing. And then use that to follow into the youth groups and the communities, develop your academy, develop the resources within that, and go from there. But again, this would have been better off 5 years ago than it is now. But I still say better late than never. The Anthem should be doing this. LA RFC should 100% do this. Utah is basically kind of doing a similar thing. Houston should be doing it. And now that Dallas is gone, you have all of Texas in your hands. All of Texas. If you can't sell, develop, and build out from Texas, I don't know where it can't work anywhere else. It can't. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this, man. This is just a little bit more annoying to me. Again, this is Worcester and Wasps and London Irish in the UK. This is the Melbourne Rebels in Australia. Like, it's more professional teams just going defunct off of horrible business plans. Top 14, I'm waiting. Top 14 is a fissure waiting to blow. That is money that is just wasted right there, that they do not have any regard for profit or concept of one. So yeah, and these play into it, all right, into being able to build rugby up. But let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know where you guys feel, what ideas maybe that you even feel you have that might be better for this. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear where you guys are coming from. All right, we'll be right back after this set of commercials. We're going to be talking a little bit about what is going on down under and dealing with the Rugby Championships, because there's some major moves that are about to happen. We'll be right back after this.
Don't you love a great ketogenic family? My name is Gifte Belu. I'm here with Health Enhanced Food. I wanted to talk to you about one of our top baking mixes, and that is our ketogenic baking mixes. We got our ketogenic seed baking mix, our ketogenic almond baking mix, and of course, our ketogenic coconut baking mix. Now, what is so important about it being ketogenic? Now, for those who don't know, ketogenic means that it is utilizing low carbs to be able to eat from. The point of it is so that your body will naturally activate burning from your fat and be able to sustain off your proteins rather than feeding your body carbohydrates and your body simply burning that and you just don't lose weight. And so whenever you're doing that process, it's incredibly difficult. And of course, you're always going to have a craving for wanting to eat the breads and the carbs that you typically would have. With our keto baking mixes, you can have the pancakes, the waffles, the cookies, the cakes, the pizza crust that you absolutely desire without sacrificing the work, your diet, and obviously the results that you're trying to get. All our ketogenic baking mixes are gluten-free, grain-free, plant-based, and absolutely loaded with natural vitamins and minerals. We want to make sure that they are low net carb, they have no added sugar, they are protein rich, they have good healthy fats, but even more importantly, they have a low glycemic level. So for those who are diabetic and you're also still trying to find something, we have the baking mixes that are for you. And I'm sure you're wondering, why make 3 versions of them if they all are basically doing the same thing? Well, we wanted to make sure, as always, that we are trying to specialize to your dietary need. So with our ketogenic coconut, we wanted to give you a version that allows you to have a sweeter bread without sacrificing your diet. But it provides you things that you can make with your cakes, you can make your cookies, but you can be able to not have to lose your mind trying to find things that can satiate the taste without ruining your diet. With our ketogenic almond baking mix, that is one that has probably the highest protein content. It allows you to be able to control your blood sugar levels, reduce your blood pressure, lower cholesterol levels, and of course, it goes to promoting weight loss and being able to control the hunger. And for our ketogenic seed, this is for those who have a nut allergy and they can't take anything like the almonds. So we want to give them still the same thing. You can still make your bread. You can still make your pizza crust. You can still make your cakes and your buns and your muffins, but you don't have to worry about having an allergic reaction. You definitely can go check out the ketogenic line of products at healthenhancedfoods.com. Go ahead, keep up with your diet, get the foods that are necessary to keep you going, and let's get the results that you absolutely deserve. Let's go.
All right, welcome back. All right, so in news that just keeps rolling, the Rugby Championships are obviously happening right now. The final round is going on. I think it's been said in it ad nauseum. Argentina has been the surprise breakthrough this year. Argentina rugby absolutely demolished Australia 67-27 last week. I don't care what they played in the first rotation of the game they did in Argentina. It's that one that's the one that matters most. On the other half of it, you see the Springboks have completely dominated the All Blacks at this point, going 4 straight wins. Not in just this Rugby Championship, but in general, 4 straight wins. So these Rugby Championships, for the first time, is coming down to the Springboks and Argentina. And it is anybody's game. Obviously, Springboks are going to be really bringing it. It's going to be played out in South Africa as well. But the Springboks don't seem to be playing. But that's not what this story is about. This isn't about, what are they doing in the Rugby Championships for this year. This is about what's going on in the future. And it was announced last week through Rugby Australia's president, through AU Roar, if I remember, that's the name of the company specifically. But I received it through American Rugby. But essentially, Rugby Australia CEO Phil Waugh is his name, announced that The Springboks and the All Blacks will not be playing in the Rugby Championships in 2026, 2028, and 2030. And what does that mean? It essentially is a renegotiating of what the competitions are going to be. And it looks like they are trying to create for themselves a bit of a better financial situation to allow the two teams to be able to expand more. This article is long. Again, you can find it at theroar.com.au. I actually ended up having to use ChatGPT to kind of separate out some of the major talking points on this because there's so much information to glean from this, and just the fact that this historic competition rivalry that started off with the Tri-Nations, obviously Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand, and then expanded to Argentina, has been massive in a lot of context. Been absolutely massive. So basically what they're trying to do now is change this into more of a tour-based system. All right. So it looks like South Africa and New Zealand announced that they're going to have an 8-week greatest rugby rivalry tour that starts in 2026 and rotates between the two nations every 2 years. Hence why 2026, 2028, and 2030 are not going to have the Rugby Championships. In these years, essentially, they will go and have a competition against a national team. Obviously, one national team. So, for example, New Zealand will travel to South Africa in 2026, and they will play both weekly and midweek games against URC teams, United Rugby Championship, and then conclude it with the international team. So with the Springboks, the A side. So instead of them jumping between Australia and Argentina and doing the home and away and then going on to the next, they're trying to bring in, I think, more rights in for the URC, which big shout out to the URC on that one. Having the Stormers, the Sharks, the Hollywood Sharks, the Stormers, the Lions, the Blues, the Blue Bulls, like that's great for that competition. And honestly, I think it actually really is must-see TV. The unfortunate part about this is that it no longer will include on those years Australia into it, though they did say that Australia wants to focus in on the Bledsoe Cup a little bit, which is Australia versus New Zealand, and doing that. So there might be still an intent to do that, bring them in. But again, we'll know what I started off with this. Argentina blew out Australia. Argentina is finally making headways into this and finding themselves in this competition as contenders and not just a whipping boys for them, as they have been for basically the last 10 years. But of course, this is a moment whenever they want to start to switch it out. The new schedule also is included in this is a factor of the coming Nations Cup tournament that is basically like a international competition that World Rugby is now put in between the Rugby World Cup years to continue to build competition. This is where the Pacific Nations Cup comes in. This is where it's not WXV, but basically the version of WXV for men's, where you have the tier 1s, tier 2, tier 3s teams that are competing. All this is to be able to include for that competition. We're still not even talking about the National Club Rugby World Cup that seems to be on the way as well too, and that's a conversation for another time. But it basically is just like you have this busy international schedule coming in. You have the two biggest dogs, South Africa and New Zealand, trying to move and do their own thing because, let's be honest, they have investors that they are due money and they are financially strapped. and they need better TV deals. Currently, the TV deal for South Africa and I believe Australia is coming to an end in 2025. So they need to be able to get things going. But again, the odd person out in all this is Argentina. Man, never in my life did I think I'd ever defend Argentina in anything, but is Argentina. And I feel like this is particularly very, very sad because Argentina, out of those 4 teams, is the one team that is not a traditional powerhouse. And by that, I mean haven't been 100 years of just being in the mix. They've been up and down, but of more recently, maybe since 2007, have been, always in the middle to bottom of the top tier teams in rugby, right? Of the tier 1s. But Argentina has consistently been fighting to be able to not only prove themselves, but to be able to bring in the tier 2s and find ways to develop them. But this format almost feels like it shuts Argentina out of the competition, out of the discussion, out of the growth process, and will kind of reduce them to just maybe dealing with the Americas and maybe then occasion with an Australia and a Springboks from time to time as it so fits. But it doesn't seem like there's a huge amount of issues between South Africa and Australia, one that can maintain the Nelson Mandela Challengers Cup shield, or Australia and New Zealand wanting to maintain the Bledsoe Cup. But nobody would want to maintain whenever the little dog starts to become big. Now this is whenever you want to cut it off. And this is where it goes to what we're dealing with over with Dallas and all these stupid business decisions that keep popping up along the way, because you start to see a little bit of a shift from what has been the traditional powers from these tiny countries that barely make any money, but now have an opportunity to find a way to make big money at the cost and expense of the grander money that they could really be making if everybody starts to get better. And it just continues to play this rotating game over and over and over. And it's sickening. It's sickening. But at the same time, I get it. I get the need to be able to have a variation. I get the need to change up the games. You got to shake it up. I truly am a believer in that. I do believe that they need to shake it up very consistently, but I don't believe you should be shaking it up at the expense of teams that are capable of not only bringing you more revenue, because really the teams that are worse in rugby tend to have better and bigger populations. Now, obviously, the U.S. being one of the primary ones, China getting into, nobody's talking about how much they're trying to work to get India involved and get that, 2 billion people on board, and China with their 1.9, 2.1 billion, India and China fight back and forth for whoever wants to have the most land space occupied by people. But you're not helping. And Argentina, even though it's a small population area, is a major contender and key holder for South America, which is a huge population hold overall. And Argentina has actively tried to make sure that they can help build South America, especially with Brazil, with 250 million people that live in Brazil, trying to work with Uruguay, which has seen a rise themselves on their own. Chile, you see a rise themselves, and you have Argentina that is not alone in it, but has been the one that has grown from this farm, particularly this cultivation area in South America. So to cut them off and kind of take away where their biggest competition comes from and their money, and that also leads to the transfer to their grassroots game, leads to their professional league like the Dogas and whatnot, impact of Super Rugby Americas, which impacts the players that they've sent overseas that come back to be able to play for the international squad, that impact the clubs, the individual members that go for the clubs in the region and the academy. These are all an ecosystem, and you're kind of messing it up on being able to rise it where this helps your overall vision. But for me, what do I know? We just continue to watch the consistent collapse of these elements. And yes, I get it that they still are having the Rugby Championships in 2027 and 2029, and obviously they're going to have it in 2025. But you're still talking about a situation where you're still isolating people out. You're still isolating people out, even with the URC teams once they get their TV contract, like what does that mean even for the rest of the Europe, like top 14? We talked about it. We talked about this on the rugby odds. But even with that, like you want to be able to see more. There's a constriction that you want, but you also want to be able to make sure that it's constriction that's elevating people. Maybe less leagues, but the teams are able to compete more. And now the TV deals make more sense. Maybe you might disassociate from the rugby championships as you know it, but let there be greater investment in that population base to be able to, in that South America, Central America, North America, Caribbean area, where you have a massive population on grassroots rugby and developing the system to be able to create dependency on product development and being able to work on these partnerships that can help elevate the cost, elevate the value of the teams so that they are able to sustain themselves better. Even with this, and while they are not directly impacted, how does it impact like Super Rugby, which in New Zealand is completely now separated from the international team? They're not in good terms. Whatever that the fracture that they had a couple months back is very, very real. That impacts the South Pacific teams, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga. That's the Pacific Nations Cup, people. That affects what goes on to the Nations Cup, which affects what happens with the Rugby World Cup. Like this is all connected, and nobody's treating it like branches. They're treating it like individual sticks that are trying to be able to find themselves. And this is a massive network that is just being poorly utilized and counterproductive. And look, again, I just said I'm for change. I do want the Rugby Championships to change up a little bit because I think it can get dry. And yes, South Africa and New Zealand are the best competitions, but don't leave out Argentina. Argentina is a bright spot for what you need overall. It's what you need. It's more so than the U.S. is at this point. So let me know what you guys think on this one. What do you feel on this story? Like, do you feel like this is a situation where it is viable? I know they talk about even here, like doing neutral games over in the U.S. or in Twickenham Stadium or Allianz Twickenham Stadium in England. But again, is that enough? Is that where you go? Like, this shouldn't be a Murga kind of situation. Make rugby great again by rolling back what has been progressed forward. But I mean, you need to be able to solve this one and without isolating out Argentina. That's just it's a lot. All right, y'all. We're gonna be right back. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Red Roses and England and Dancing with the Stars. Man, Ilona Maher is back. We're gonna be let's talk about it a little bit more. Let's make it happen. This Gifted Bailu Rugby Swag Show. Let's check it out.
All right, I don't want to hold you guys off. I know it's another ad. Watch out now, but I need to tell you guys about Rugby Outlet Mall. Look, this is the official e-commerce store for Rugby Swag Show and for GiftTime Rugby Network. And of course, we want to make sure that we are hooking you up with gear that is absolutely built for you to be able to wear on a day-to-day. Of course, we can do jerseys, and everybody has a jersey, but not everybody wears a jersey every day. But we have the rugby gear for you. Whether it is our FedEx best or our PayPal best, we have unique designs that are going to be fun and desirable for you to represent the way that you need to. And of course, if you guys go to rugbyoutletmall.com and use the code Grow Rugby, we're going to save you 10% off your first order. Hey, please support Rugby Swag Show. And of course, even some of our other stuff, the HBC Rugby Classic, and just general gear and merch for you guys, because hey, I want you guys to have the best, and I definitely appreciate you guys supporting. So definitely go rugbyoutletmall.com, use promo code GROW Rugby, GREAUX Rugby, and you will get 10% off your first order. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys, and let me let you get back. Cheers.
All right, y'all. We're back with this one. Red Rose England women's rugby team and the Black Fern played each other this past weekend. Shout out to Red Rose. They ended up winning it, getting their first back-to-back win over the Black Fern. I think this story was more so for me an interesting one of the rivalry and what built up into it. Apparently, this was the 32nd time in 27 years that these two teams have played each other. Blackfern have the overall record 21-11 at that point. And I think now obviously it's 21-12. So I guess it's the 34th time. Yeah, 34th time that they did it. It's just I just thought it was good. It was a good play. There wasn't really too much to go off of it, but I really enjoyed the fact that the Black Fern on their advertising, because the Red Rose did shit for advertising. I'm not gonna lie. They did not promote this very excitedly, despite the fact that thankfully I think they ended up having like 40,000 people in Twickenham Stadium watching the game, which is a solid amount for the women's side, and maybe not as much as the Premier, which I think it's like maybe 50,000-60,000, but just 40,000, 45,000, 50,000 is significant for a game of this magnitude. But like I said, I love what the Black Fern did. They had like the most passive vibes lead up into this. Like if you look on their IG, you're talking about like I always talk about the Ruby Tui video where it's like with reggae music over the top, super New Zealand. I'm not gonna lie, Ruby Tui's got a vibe that's got me swooning. I'm not gonna front. That's swooning vibes right there. But it was really good, great energy with that. They had going into England when they got there, giving free coffee to constituents out there, and really building population love for them. This is a different kind of year for them. They were without Portia Woodman for the first time in a decade. Who's been their best player and, obviously is the greatest women's rugby player of all time and amongst, in my opinion, the top 10 greatest rugby players of all time. And then you add to the factor that then you had the video of them with King Charles in Buckingham Palace and the group scrum hug that went along with it. And it was so many good vibes promotion for the team. Didn't really have like the aggression that I wanted from this rivalry that's been like Rugby World Cups, the world champions versus the number one team in the world. This 2 decades battle of the North and the Southern hemispheres, 2 best teams. Like both of them, it didn't have the full hype, but it was still a good game, man. Again, the Red Rose winning it, outside of the Rugby World Cup is great, but whoever wins the Rugby World Cup really is the one that has the swag, in my opinion. It truly has a swag going with it. So I think I just want to say on that one, like it was good vibes. It was just good vibes. I've never seen it. I don't want to see it that much more, but I think this was one of those things that were purely just Southern Hemisphere. It's just Southern Hemisphere. It's just New Zealand in that one, and the vibes that go with it. Beasts on the field, chill, reggae vibes. It's an island when it always comes down to it. It might have 8 million people. It's an island, and they're gonna do island stuff. And UK just blase over it, which we need to talk about that too. Like you can't have games like that and blase blah your social media like that. That's stupid. That's stupid. All right, but speaking of stuff that's not stupid, look, we got I gotta finally use it. We got an Ilona Maher watch. All right, so Ilona Maher had her first round of the Dancing with the Stars. Did her first rotation of it, which was solid. It was solid. Very much could tell she was nervous. Very much could tell that she was thinking about her steps. Got to give credit. She said that she is not a dancer. Obviously, her messaging on being a body positive, be proud of your strength, your body, and all that has resonated. Landed her at the Emmys. Yo, this woman's star is going nuts. I forget the star. Her management team is by far probably one of the greatest management teams I've seen in such a short period of time, because they've gotten her on damn near everything. It's literally a countdown until one person said it, until Ilona has her own either talk show or she's going to be in a movie, in a legit movie, not just like some side project, like a legit role in a movie. And as been said, I think Ilona Maher is going to be USA Rugby's first $1 million earner, $1 million rugby earner. Like through her rugby brand, she's going to be worth $1 million. And I mean that her platform. But anyways, she did Dancing with the Stars. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it.
With her partner Alan Burston, it's Ilona Maher.
Let's go, girls. I'm going out tonight. I'm feeling alright. Gonna live and all hang out. Wanna make some noise, really raise my voice. Yeah, I wanna scream and shout. Best thing about being a woman, the prerogative to have a little fun. Man, I feel like a woman.
Yo, excellent job. This is what you want. All right, obviously she was nervous, very stiff, as when it comes to rhythm, you always are watching it. But again, this is a big stage. All right, you're talking about 10, 15 million viewers per episode. You're talking about a legacy of 33 seasons, even though multiple seasons happen within a single year, so it can inflate the amount of seasons that are there. You're talking about a huge legacy, doing something you're not used to doing. This is a lot more finesse, but I thought she did an all right job. Obviously, I'm going to be biased. Rugby couldn't vote for her because in Brazil, but we say vote for her. The results from this one were that this round, nobody was getting cut. And the next round, there's going to be 2 cuts that are going to happen from it. And I thought, again, it was good that got out of it. She's got some solid competitions, but I didn't realize there were some also odds on her potential competition on this one. Like what the odds are looking like for her. So apparently what the voters are saying, what Vegas is essentially saying is that Ilona has essentially, hold on, let's bring this up. Got to bring it up. Ilona has essentially a 7-1 odds of winning Dancing with the Stars, which is basically about a 13% chance of Dancing with the Stars. And which is, I guess, a pretty solid amount of chance. I didn't think it'd be that high. And now they said, alternatively, they said that Anna Delvey, who is on this show, whoever that is, has a 3% chance. But they broke it down, actually, even, where was it? They broke it down by, like, the individual stars that are playing. I saw the chart. Where was it? I'd seen a chart somewhere where it was like 18% and 10%. Like her odds aren't that that major. And I don't remember who was all on this season of it because I just don't watch Dancing with the Stars. It never was my thing. But I thought it was kind of dope. Like, yo, she could still win. Oh, yeah, there we go. So you got like Danny Amendola, who's a former NFL wide receiver. Steven Nedorowski, who I don't know who that is. You had various people that just kind of made this that make this an interesting prospect. Ah, here we go. Okay, there we go. I was like, man, I know I'd seen this somewhere. So, okay, so Steven Nedorowski has a 4-1 odds. He seems to be the high favorite to be able to win this. Dwight Howard being second. Dwight Howard at 5-1. Danny Amendola at 6-1. Ilona Maher at 7-1, which is great. Fourth favorite to do it because athletes seem to do very well in this. Chandler Kinney at 10-1. Brooks Nader at 12-1. Joey Grazide at 14-1, Phaedra Parks at 16-1, Eric Roberts, who actually did a really poor score, I think, on this week's episode of Dancing with the Stars, at 16-1, Tori Spelling at 20-1, Jen Tran at 22-1, Reginald Vell Johnson, Carl Winslow at the second lowest at 25-1 odds. I'm insulted by that. All right, I am insulted that Carl Winslow is not getting the respect that he deserves. And then finally added at the end, Anna Delvey at 30-1 odds to be able to win it all. So the fact that Ilona has this high of a chance to win it, I don't know what the prize is, but it's going to only add to the star if she finishes first, second, or third. Boom. Let her finish first, second, or third and also be a bronze medalist and also be the first rugby athlete to be able to have this kind of stage altogether and be known as a rugby athlete, not as an actress that's a rugby athlete or that has been off for ages doing it before, but as a active rugby player on this format and stage would be huge. And for the women's side should absolutely be something that's just taken all the way through. I just saying. So, I mean, needless to say, like, this is a pretty solid deal for Ilona. I love the fact that she's got this thing going on. I truly do love it. And I am going to attempt to at least keep up with her performances of Dancing with the Stars so that you know how we know and make it so. So let me know what you guys think about this. If you guys got a chance to even see her on the red carpet, which for the Emmys, which was dope. She was very natural. Again, you can see the nerves, but she is very natural on there, talking with stars like Shar Jackson and Reese Witherspoon and Brie Larson, and just like, it is dope. It is legitimately dope. It is legitimately dope. I so regret not ever getting an interview with her prior to this. I would have flexed that interview up and down and really would have liked to know. But, you know, you live and you learn, and you make up for that mistake for later on in the future. At this point, I feel intimidated, and I don't feel like my podcast is worthy of that level of attention because I don't know if I can bring anything to her on that one. But, you know, maybe I can. You know, help me get my confidence back up. So let me know what you guys think. All right, man. We got one more commercial for you guys, and we're going to talk a little bit about some issues that World Rugby and World Rugby investors are having with Rugby World Cup 2031 happening in the U.S. We're going to be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, this is just the break train sending out a personal little video diary to all you people out there where I am going to document me riding most of the way between Singapore and Tokyo for the 2019 Rugby World Cup.
I needed help, and it came from Louisiana.
We in Singapore, baby!
Gift from GiftTime Rugby USA is a extroverted tour de force. But what unites us is a hunger for adventure.
Off to KL, Kuala Lumpur. Woo! Yeah! Woo!
Gift, where are we?
We're in Fiji!
Morning, Vietnam! Mount Fuji, baby!
Our love of Asian rugby culture.
1, 2, 3, center!
Yeah!
Rugby is starting to develop here in Cambodia for women as well.
Valkyries, the mighty Valkyries!
We're out here, we're running out of energy, we're running out of money, and we're feeling isolated. And yet at that critical moment, friends, family, sometimes complete strangers come on board. Before you know it, we're back in the game.
Tokyo, here we come!
Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. Watch the full adventure at crugby.vhx.tv. That's C like SEE rugby.vhx.tv. Welcome back, y'all. Okay, so 2031 is coming up very quickly, and man, there's worries. You Rugby World Cup officials have worries. All right, an article was put out on the Sports Business Journal that said there have been concerns raised within the larger rugby unions about the commercial and strategic rationale for World Rugby's decision to host the men's 2031 Rugby World Cup in the U.S. Doubts that are being accentuated by the political machination for the November elections, according to Gavin Mars of the London Telegraph. The most prevalent one is questioning whether the investment required to improve the performance of the U.S. Eagles will be throwing good money after bad. This is huge. Good. I'm going to just bring up this article all together so that you guys can see what I'm seeing. Others say that even with a concerted high-performance program in place, time is running out. Nothing will turn off the TV audience in the U.S. more quickly than if their national side are humiliated at their own tournament. There is also the question of legacy. Even if the tournament itself is a success, is there any hope that it will leave a lasting footprint? Having seen football fail to crack the market, football being soccer, despite high-profile signings of foreign talent for their domestic leagues. Skeptics suggest that hosting the 2031 World Cup in an established market such as the UK would deliver a strong commercial return and timely payday for the unions, without any risk of the U.S. drive. Supporters of the U.S. plan, however, point out that similar concerns were voiced ahead of the Japan hosting the 2019 World Cup, and yet it delivered a surplus of $462.2 million and a lasting legacy, most notably in this financial strength of their domestic league. With rugby's global economy currently reliant on the UK and French markets to generate 60% of the revenue, which is insane, it is seen as critical to expand the sport into the U.S. to ensure long-term growth beyond incremental growth of return to an already saturated market. New Zealand Rugby Union CEO Mark Robinson said that it was critical to maximize the remaining time with a major coordinated drive to ensure that the U.S. growth strategy succeeds, including staging more fixtures in the U.S. The brainstorming could result in the Premiership and Super Rugby playing high-profile fixtures in the U.S., while other internationals are expected to be staged there. This is the thought process that's going on with this. And this is my thoughts on this one. These people are not wrong, but their solutions are stupid. Their solutions are so malignly dumb without realizing what it is that it takes to be able to succeed in this market. The fact of the matter is, if they think that throwing money into the U.S. Eagles is a waste of money, I don't disagree with them. If they continue to keep thinking that not throwing money into the grassroots and develop the audience around it isn't good usage, that's where I find a problem. Yes, they want to utilize, bringing Super League teams and let's bring all these big teams over to the U.S. to be able to play. Obviously, NRL has been trying this method as well, too. And I go back again to you're not providing the why for the American public. You're just providing another event that exists that needs time to be able to develop. That's not what's going to make the 2031 Rugby World Cup succeed. And the people who did say that what was said ahead of Japan were right. There was a lot of concerns. What's not being said about Japan is the amount of time that the Japan Rugby Union took to developing their audience. Not with just random games. They developed their audience. I went to that 2019 Rugby World Cup. There was not... I don't know what other Rugby World Cups is, but I've heard about what happened in Paris. There's not been a level of professional acceptance from an entire culture like there was in Japan. Japan Rugby had their residents ready to choose teams that were not Japan. If Japan had lost, I don't think they would have made a difference because there were people that were there for Australia. There were people that were rooting for Wales. There were people that were rooting for New Zealand. There were people that were rooting for England. They had people preset to kind of follow into this. You be a fan of the event. Just be a fan of the event. We will teach you everything you need to know about how to be able to function in this event. Why do you care about this event? What you need to care about this event? How to be able to proceed forward? How do you acknowledge it? And when these foreigners come in, how do you treat them? How do you make sure that they feel like they are the most important people in the world? And that is why that 462.2 million ended up happening. That was as great a run event as you could ever have. There was no arrogance in anything that was done. Did you know that when you had buses that were going, there was literally miles long of volunteers clapping for you, going, hey, congrats, let's go. You never see that in any of the other Western countries, and I don't think you'll see that in the US either. So whenever you're talking about how do you want to make sure that this whole event doesn't flop horrendously in the US, you have to be like, how are you tapping into the culture? And everything that they said there had nothing to do with being in the culture. Everything is, how do we be rugby? How do we be rugby? Let's do more rugby. You literally see Ilona Maher that's out here in a culture. She is in the culture, all right? That is not the rugby culture. She is in the cultural fiber of the U.S. She has more capability of making an effect and making the 2031 and subsequently 33 Rugby World Cup much better than what these people literally just suggested. Yeah, you can create the anthem and try and be what they can. But the thing is, the reason why the U.S. public would not give a crap about the Rugby World Cup after the U.S. would lose in it or got mollywopped in it is because you've given them nothing in the culture to do with it. Let me see some of these biggest stars come over here and be on a show. Come be a part of the podcast here in the US. Come be a part of YouTubers or streamers that are in the US, talking here in the US, talking to the US audience. This is the same thing that's been happening in music at the same time. I know more particularly within Black culture than I do within maybe general pop culture, but there was Tyler, who is a musical artist from South Africa, who came in, and the variations of how race goes in South Africa are different than the U.S. But in the U.S., she's a Black woman, and in connection to try and deal with the culture of music and hip hop and R&B in this country, you have to tap in to that Black audience in a way that they recognize it. And contention happened with it, where there was confusion on how these identities are being presented and how it is connected with that audience. That is what I'm starting to see here. Once again, I don't know who is consulting from the US to go for South Africa, but whoever is doing it is horrible. They're not doing surveys. They are not tapping into the culture. They're trying to play this like this is the soccer world, the football World Cup, or that this is the Super Bowl, and I love what Marty Power said, and we said in the earlier episode, that this is like minor league baseball that you need to build up. They need to be taken out from the Savannah Bananas. What are the Savannah Bananas doing to make it interesting? Go find what the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Commanders, whatever the generals, whatever they're called, what are they doing to continue to build their audience? Because obviously they got like 50, 60 years on them, but they had to change up. That is who you're supposed to be going on from. So this rages me because, one, I really do not see a great trajectory right now as we watch another MLR team go off, and people are going to be like, well, it's an MLR team. It's the part of the progress of professional rugby. No, whenever a professional team is either being broken down, they've typically broken down within tiny markets that are not sustainable for what the greater expansion is. When you are in a major city market, you do not break down in a major city market. The Dallas Cowboys have been the Dallas Cowboys for the better part of what? Since 1960, whenever the Dallas Chiefs moved to Kansas City in NFL, they've been going on. That's 60 years. They didn't constrict because of the fact that they didn't have enough people to watch. It was because of the fact that they moved to a different market. Teams that have constricted, like whether they were in Albuquerque or something like that have been because of the fact that you have just not enough people to sustain what that team needs. And this goes again, why I keep saying goes back to 2031. You are not touching the culture. You are not touching the culture. Again, you are not touching the culture. And every time you talk about it, no matter how many games you bring in, those games mean nothing because they're not part of the U.S. culture. To be part of the U.S. culture is to interact into things that are highly prevalent in the culture. They're about to try and ride Ilona. I know this for a fact. I better see that they paid her like $500,000 to be able to ride her through to 2028 and subsequently 2030. Because if they don't, she deserves way more for what she's doing. Because these people are not learning their lesson. The fact that Britain and France, who arguably have two of the worst rugby business models in the world, are holding up 60% of the revenue generation is insane. Yes, they got the population. Yes, they got the story to it, but their business model is crap. Ain't a single profitable business in rugby in either of those two regions, country and then region, because the UK is a region, set of countries. So I'm looking at this, and this is what makes my blood boil. This is what makes me go like, you're really ignoring it. Like this is where sometimes I go, I don't want Europeans having a voice in U.S. terms. And they're talking about even the November elections. The November elections aren't going to do anything for this. Like, this is sports. You're Western countries. You're the least affected that it's going to be if Donald Trump gets into office. You're the least affected. This is all about either African countries, Middle Eastern, Asia, South America, Caribbean. Those countries are affected. UK and France are literally going to be the least impacted by this. So STFU, right? But like, when you're still not even taking into consideration that you still have not been like, what are we doing that is not culturally relevant? Who are we not connecting with? Like, why are we not trying to reach out to influencers and organizations that literally are guiding spots or tent poles for what this culture is? Why are we not connecting with the musicians? What are we doing that's making this exciting? You can't have people that don't understand this and then try and come into the U.S. market. And then I'm going to say one more thing off of this, because again, it's really making me rage a lot. It's really making me rage out a lot. I think AEG has been the one that has been spearheaded the Rugby World Cup in the U.S. campaign, and then had the addition of other people. I need AEG, who legitimately has grounds in U.S. culture. The concept of what they've done has all been built in the U.S. You do promotions for music and concerts. I need you to get your head out your ass. All right. I don't know what it is that you're doing within rugby, but you need to get your head out your ass, because you are not doing things that are culturally relevant. I don't know if you need to go and find more people that are into culture. Maybe diversify your staffers. Maybe diversify who your youth base is, your internship. But you are not connecting with the grassroots. You're not connecting with the U.S. population audience. You're not connecting with the people that actually make this event go through, because this should be $1 billion event, hands down. Maybe I think technically it should be in the U.S. should be a $5 billion event. Like the Rugby World Cup should be a $5 billion event. You're doing it across the nation. All right. You're doing it across different platforms. You're having people travel. You're going to be getting an influx of maybe 20 million people coming into the country to be able to watch this Rugby World Cup. And if this does not end up being $1 billion event with the individual stadiums that are going to be participating in it, those cities being major participants in revenue generation for those cities, you have failed completely. You have zero purpose. Your events are not good enough to be justifying that you have somebody from the UK literally just going, bring in more games. Like, you're doing nothing in this in between moment. Your biggest idea plans have been create the Carolina anthem. All right, bet. Yeah, no, I think that's where we need to go. Get the fuck out. Build the USA rugby team. Make sure they're good. Like, what? Oh my God, it's not this difficult. The U.S. is not this. It's hard. It's hard because it's competitive. But if you've got money, and apparently money is being invested into it, it's not this difficult. It is not that it's literally just a little bit of research. You can go look on spot. Get on Joe Rogan. Get on Joe Rogan. That will at least access you 20 million people on it. Get on Joe Rogan. And then go find the smaller ones. Get on the pivot in some way. We'll send someone over to the pivot. If you have a game coming, make sure they're connected. Find whoever is managing Ilona Maher's people. Who's managing Ilona Maher. Because they're doing a way better job than you guys have ever done. Like, this is too aggravating to me to see and read it and be like, yo. And again, we're going back one more step again. You're not even touching the grassroots. You're going to be, the grassroots is too large. We saw the numbers. It's 80,000 people that are out here. 80,000 people that are registered to play rugby in the U.S. right now. 80,000 people. STFU, if you think this is too much to be able to work the grassroots, that you're not doing enough of it. And I don't mean community-based, let me go help the Miss Needy. No, I mean like legitimately doing things that intrigue and excite the base in the U.S. in the regions. You got these MLR teams, all these places. Yo, these academies, these people invest something that they need to mandatorily create an event that is legitimately exciting with legitimate artists that take advantage of the region that they are in. If I'm in Chicago, I better see maybe not Kanye, maybe not a Chief Keef, but I better see some dumb, crazy amount of Chicago artists that are popping up out of Chicago that invigorate the youth base. If I am in LA, boy, you don't even have an excuse. LA is an epicenter for talent and intrigue and popularity and entertainment. Yo, New Orleans, I've said this consistently. In New Orleans, Lil Wayne just said he didn't get the Super Bowl. How are you going to go and rectify that? New Orleans, you should be finding a way to get Lil Wayne onto the stage in the MLR in some way, shape, or form. I don't care what it is, but he needs to be performing at an MLR game or at an MLR championship. I don't know when the next championship is supposed to be held at. But if it is not getting that, yo, you are screwing this up. This is where the poor investment comes into. This is why Dallas gets shut down. This is why you're $5 million into a hole at the MLR. This is why USA Rugby is broke. This is why World Rugby is going broke. This is why you lose teams. This is why Rugby League continues to expand itself. This is why it's just all these things are not this difficult. It's not this difficult. Ah! So, anyways, let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know how you guys feel, because I can't look at that. I can't see these things anymore and just continue to be like, oh man, there's just nothing they can do. You just don't. You are the worst. You are horrible promoters. You are so don't stop hiring agencies that are legacy agencies. Hire agencies that are smaller and that are more based in the community. Because these legacy ones either don't give a crap about who you are, don't feel that you are important, or they legitimately are not good at what they do because they are not giving you crap for deal. DJ Marshmello. Freaking, who do we got for USA Rugby? You seen the lineup for USA Rugby? Like, oh my God. All right, man. We'll be back after this last commercial. Let's talk some final points for the day. Be right.
I'm gonna let you get back to the show. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. But in 2024, it is necessary that you have your own website. Don't let anybody tell you social media is the only place that you can be able to advertise. You need your own home. And the best home to be able to purchase online is through Green Geeks. This is the web host platform that gives you the most for the cheapest price, y'all. I've been using Green Geeks for almost 10 years now, and off the WordPress platform, I've been able to customize and create websites to my desire and to the liking that I need. Included with it, they give you some of the best customer service in the business, and I cannot say enough about them. They have been able to be a great assistance to everything I do. And if you guys want to be able to start today at $4.95 per month, go to the link in the bio or the link in the caption, depending on where you're at, and go use it to help the show and get your site up right away. There's no reason that you need to be having complications, that you need to be paying thousands of dollars to be able to do it, or even thousands of dollars per month to be able to get your website up. Go to Green Geeks, check it out, support the show. All right, let's get you back.
All right, y'all. Come to the end of the show. And I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to pay attention, to listen. It's always tough to be able to get through sometimes and know whether or not it's worth it, but you guys make it absolutely worth it. This is definitely a longer episode, but you know what? I think it's absolutely worth it. I love your response, love your thoughts on this, and I look forward to where you guys go with it. Also want to add, we got another interview with Australian women's rugby coach Joe Yap. Great conversation. Definitely even speaks to the topics that we talked about today, and what she's looking forward in the future, especially with WXV2 and what she's expecting for Australia and their vision on that one. I was hopefully surprised with it. So thank you guys so much for the time. Thank you guys so much for making it worth it. And definitely check out some of our past episodes, of course, to be able to kick in. Obviously, we talked with Nyasha and Kumbi before that, with Chris Thomas, and of course we've had a slew of people from Lance Kavanaugh to Mike Anderson, Nia Tapper, Charity Williams, Wayne Scully, great people in rugby and a part of rugby and have been elevators of rugby in their field. So definitely check it out. Tell your friends about this. Absolutely share this out where you can. And I hope to just be able to see you again next time. But in the meantime, I hope that you're happy. I hope that you are healthy. But most importantly, I hope that you know that you are truly highly favored. Till next time, y'all. Cheers.